Hey everyone, it's Barbara Hayward here from the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff YouTube channel and Facebook page. First off, I want to give a little bit of an apology. I'm absolutely full of allergies at the moment, hence the red cheek and a little bit of sinus going on. The picture in the background is not a green screen, it's where I live, and we've got pine trees and acacia trees, and we're in the season of the acacia trees dropping their pollen, and I didn't realize that I have allergies to it, and so I do apologize, so just bear with me. So this video that I'm doing today, this time, is part 2 of my spiritual experiences. These are experiences that the universe gave to me personally. There is no teachings in them. There's no morals or learnings or any great wisdom from me out of these. These next two relate to Taranaki. Taranaki is the region of New Zealand, and New Plymouth is, we'll say, the capital, if you like. It's the city of Taranaki. And this is where I had my radio show for 3 years. We did over 2,000 phone calls in that time. And these are gifts that the universe or my people gave to me. And I'm reading it out of my book, Letters from Grandma, and I do apologize, it's a little bit cranky there. And you can only get the book from my website, which will be put up. So you can look at it on my website if you like. To be yourself in the world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Let me do that again. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Brilliant, brilliant writer from the old days. From before my era. In this next series of events happening several years later, again in and around Taranaki, I was living in Tauranga and travelling every fortnight to the Taranaki region. And I did travel for a year to do the radio show, readings, workshops, things like that. This particular day, I had been working out of a hairdresser's salon, and the salon owner invited me to stay with her and her family overnight. They lived on the coast side of Mount Taranaki. I had finished for the evening all my readings, and as I was driving to her house, I noticed that Mount Taranaki had an aura. I looked and I looked. As I looked harder, the energy started to rise, and what I saw was the shape of the mountain, but slightly to the side. I looked and rubbed my eyes, thinking my imagination was playing tricks with me. The outline just wouldn't go away. I even looked away for a few minutes, thinking that would make a difference. But when I looked back, the outline was still there. This went on for possibly 15 minutes, the time it took for me to drive far enough around to the back of the mountain where finally I couldn't see it anymore. I assumed it was my imagination or simply my mind playing tricks. I had never heard of this happening before, so I had no reference point to measure whether it was real or not. It just seemed like it couldn't be real. So much so that I had decided not to mention it to my host that night. The next morning, the vision was still very clear in my mind, I must say. I checked the mountain as I drove into the township. Of course, I couldn't see a thing. So I felt maybe I should just dismiss it as my fertile imagination, or perhaps even a problem with my eyesight. When I arrived at the salon early, I saw a friend of mine parked a little down the street. I had time to go and speak to him. Now that I live so far away, I catch every opportunity I can to when I see a friend. Greg came over and I was surprised to see me. We had a hug, hello, uh, both commenting on what a strange occurrence it was for us to be meeting like this. He mentioned to me that he felt maybe spirit was behind the meeting. I will say here that Greg was a Maori lad and was at this time, in his late 30s and well immersed in Maori spirituality. He explained that he was giving a talk on crystal healing that morning, and I mentioned that I had a huge amethyst crystal in my car that he could borrow. This crystal was big enough for a man could place his foot inside the crystal if needed. And I did that many times. Many years earlier, I would use this particular crystal for healing when I would do a reading. When I came back with the crystal, he humbly thanked me and agreed to bring it back to me after the talk. He then looked at me seriously as he asked me knowingly, "Is there something you need to tell me, Barb? Something you may think strange that you need an answer to?" I just looked at him, wondering how he knew. Then I asked myself if I should tell him about my vision or not. He may just simply laugh at me and accuse me of making it up, or tell me to go and have my eyes checked. Yet instinctively I knew he was asking about the mountain. I told him about the night before, as I was driving to my friend's house towards the coast road, I saw what looked to me like a silhouette at the side of the mountain. Greg asked me to explain exactly what I saw. He genuinely seemed interested, so I continued telling him how I had rubbed my eyes thinking it would disperse the image, how I had looked away thinking when I turned back the image would be gone, but that none of these tactics had worked. The image was still very strong. This is a saying, "Wherever you are, be a good one," attributed to Abraham Lincoln. I thought he was looking at me strangely, and he certainly had a very unusual smirk on his face. He said to me that he wanted to put the crystal in his van as it was getting quite heavy, and that he's something in the van for me. When he came back, he simply handed me a long, thin green stone. I quickly gave it back to him, saying, "No, this is yours and you may need it." He explained to me that he'd been given that particular greenstone about 10 years previously from his tohunga, his Māori spiritual mentor, but that around 18 months ago the greenstone had stopped working for him. He had been told by the tohunga that he needed to keep it because one day he will hear of something that is very rare and he will then know who the greenstone needed to be passed on to. So he said, "It is now yours." All right. He explained that he had never heard of anybody who had actually seen the mountain spirit, its twin. I was dumbfounded and asked in a very stuttering fashion if he was sure that that's what had happened. Greg said he was absolutely positive he had heard about the mountain spirit, but none of the people he knew had seen it. He knew exactly what I'd seen, but was quite surprised that it had been seen by me, an Australian Pakeha to boot. A Pakeha is a person that isn't Māori. To this we both laughed. He felt that the mountain obviously saw me as someone special, and possibly we had many past life connections. This was the second time that I had heard a reference to a relationship between the mountain and myself. I was speechless. I would just have pleased to know. I would have just been pleased to know that I wasn't going crazy. But this, wow. There was a bit more he spoke to me about, but all that was along the same lines of wondering why the mountain had chosen to reveal itself to me and the questions like that. When the conversations came to a close, we said our goodbyes, and he said he would bring my large crystal back that afternoon. As a rule, I do not like greenstone, and this one, I must say, looked really dirty. I really haven't liked greenstone. Um, I've had many people offer greenstone in lieu of readings, but it just has no appeal to me for some reason. It really didn't appeal to me at all. Oh gosh, I can be such a snob sometimes. It was only much later that I decided to delve deeper into the reason the greenstone had so many red and orange flecks throughout. To my utter surprise, the red and the green flecks represent the Whakapapa, loosely translated to be the ancestors in spirit, normally the elders. Whakapapa is your lineage, if you like, your particular lineage in spirit. I felt quite ignorant that what I thought to be ugly was actually such an important and honoured aspect. From there, I went to humbleness to think that the spirits had chosen me to be the custodians of such a precious piece of greenstone. I wore this greenstone for several more years until the next event occurred. So I will put the next event. It was an absolutely fascinating event. I hope you've enjoyed the last video and this video. As I said, there is no teachings in here. They're just simply stories from my heart, from spirit, my people that gave to me in honor of our relationship and our connection over the decades. So until part 3, which is the final 2 stories that are associated but not totally related to Mount Taranaki, but associated around the energy of the mount. So until then, thank you very much, and don't forget to breathe. Bye-bye.